You are watching the Uptick Newswire Stock Day video show, hosted by Connie Colella. Subscribe to the Uptick Newswire YouTube channel to stay up to date on penny stock news and interviews, public information on OTC, pink sheets, and microcap stocks from around the world. And now, your host, Connie Colella.
Joining me in the Uptick Newswire studio in Phoenix is Kent Wilson of Alpine Technologies Ltd. Kent, welcome to the show.
Connie, thanks a lot.
Alpine Technologies is traded on the OTCQB under the ticker symbol ALPP. Alpine is a diversified, fast-growing holding company involved in technology and innovation in business. Kent, give us a bird's eye view of what you guys do.
Alpine is a uniquely positioned holding company, and that's a pretty general statement to make. But if you look at the investment landscape that's out there right now, you can kind of classify us as fairly similar to Berkshire Hathaway, and in prior years maybe GE. And what I mean by that is we're looking at a highly diverse landscape of types of businesses that we will invest or acquire in, and it's usually geared around our business model called D.S.F. And when you look at that space, there's just not a lot of people out there doing what we do, how we do it, and executing as well as we do.
Okay, so you mentioned your business model, D.S.F. Can you tell our viewers what that is all about and what it means and why it's important?
Sure. D.S.F. stands for Driver, Stabilizer, and Facilitator. And what that really means is we have companies that we look at and we try to classify them in one of three categories. The first one would be a driver category. A driver category company would be relatively new in nature, typically has a technology segment to it, is fairly disruptive in nature, if you will, high potential for growth in the market, very little competition. The space is not mature yet. It allows companies like Alpine to realize large market potential with a relatively new technology or idea, if you will. So we're not buying Apple, we're not buying Google, so we're looking at companies that are relatively new that have large potential. So the next segment we have is called a stabilizer. It is your quintessential private equity type of buy when it comes down to acquisitions. Stable revenues, sticky customer base, been around a long time, reliable net profits. And that's needed when you have a company that you own that is a driver classification. Those companies need the stabilizing effect and the stable nature of a company that can provide resources to it. So that's really what a stabilizer does for us. The next piece of the puzzle is our facilitator business model, and this is really our secret sauce. When you look at the landscape of businesses buying other companies, what sets Alpine apart in our D.S.F. model is our greatest competitive advantage is our highly diversified business structure, yet a very collaborative culture that goes on at Alpine. So a facilitator company is a company that allows another company to vertically integrate without vertically integrating. So what do I mean by that? That's it's unique because, here's an example. We own a company called Quality Circuit Assembly out of San Jose. One of their larger customers is a leader in 3D printing. Everybody that is a competitor to Quality Circuit Assembly wants that business. So how do we hedge against that competition? We were able to bring in a sister company called American Precision Fabricators, which is also a facilitator, and they were able to outsource, if you will, to a sister company, the sheet metal and the CNC components that go into this 3D printer. QCA does the circuit boards and the wire harnesses. And so now what we've been able to do is leverage slack in a different company to hedge against competition for Quality Circuit Assembly. And that relationship has not only added about $2 million in revenue to its sister company from that customer base, but also kept out competition. So that's really what a facilitator does. You got two divergent companies, two different business segments working together to create a competitive advantage.
And building on that, you recently acquired your first stabilizer company, Morris Sheet Metal Corp. Tell us briefly about them and how the acquisition will affect your bottom line.
Morris Sheet Metal, the stabilizer look to acquire a company in that nature has taken longer than I'd like. But it will have a very large role going forward in 2019 and beyond. We expect, revenue growth from there to, add about $12 to $14 million into our revenue cycle, and immediately impact profitability. So Morris Sheet Metal is a mechanical contractor. Their sister company, JT Spiral, does the same thing. They have a segment, they really go after food manufacturers. So say your Bertolli pasta, which happens to be one of their customers. They need to do an upgrade to their facility. A lot of times they're doing the duct work and the high precision type of work that's going into those food processing plants. They have consistent revenues between 12 and $15 million a year for the last 10 years. Been around since 1990. They're supported by an awesome union called Smart Local 20, which I wanted to announce today. We're very proud of that relationship, and we expect big things from Morris coming.
Okay, good. Well, give us an update on an exciting development for Alpine 4. It's called Spectrum EBOS.
Yes, Spectrum. Spectrum is EBOS stands for Spectrum, which is kind of looking at a multitude of different items. And EBOS stands for Enterprise Business Operating System. Now, an Enterprise Business Operating System to us is something that encompasses an ERP, a business intelligence piece, a document management system within it, and it has to be tied to collaboration. It has to be able to drive relative information to the front lines, salespeople, people in the production floor, forward-looking people that need real-time information that will benefit from them. There really isn't anything out there that's doing that. There's Oracle and there's SAP, but those are geared for companies that are like GE and say Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 companies even. But nothing out there is really geared towards the microcap to mid-cap space. So as we looked at a solution to manage our subsidiaries effectively, there wasn't a solution out there. One of the visions that we have for this is not only to manage our own subsidiaries in a holistic piece, but pick up efficiencies from that. We talked about our facilitator role, and that's leveraging resources across our platform of companies. But how do we do that from a technology standpoint? And so we've been able to build out a dynamic and forward-thinking platform that will allow growth across all of our subsidiaries. And our goal is, once we mature that product out, is to offer it to other companies that need a more robust system, that are sick of using, say, a QuickBooks, which is, frankly, not great if you're public, it's not Sarbanes-Oxley compliant, that need a more robust system but don't have the ability to afford an Oracle.
All right, your revenues have been consistently rising during the last few years. Talk about 2019 growth for first quarter versus Q1 last year.
Well, I am proud to announce here today that our growth for Q1 2019 is expected to be 85% growth over Q1 of 2018. That is 85% growth, something that is not necessarily easy to obtain, especially when you look at the maturity of our subsidiaries. We're growing at an astronomical level, and we're able to handle that growth because of systems like Spectrum. But also, we put a lot of training, if you will. We give our employees tools, time, and training. And what that really means is we can do more with less. So what you're going to see in 2019 also is, I predict that we will become what we call net profitable. And that includes, non-cash flow things like depreciation and amortization that we get hit pretty hard for. And even on some of our companies like Altea, which is one of our driver companies, which has a lot of revenue recognition issues. We may only be able to recognize revenue on a protracted basis based on when we can bill for it, even though a lot of that revenue is technically earned earlier. So that deflates our revenue. But I believe that we'll be able to get there in 2019. We're going to be really close in Q1, possibly in Q2. But for 2019, we're really expecting to hit our stride in late Q2. So if we're looking at 85% growth over Q1, I don't think I'm in a position to give that information here today, but I can tell you that our modeling is showing that we're going to see some substantial growth in Q2.
Anything more you can say beyond Q2 for 2019, where you guys are heading?
I think if you look organically at where we're at, not adding any new subsidiaries to the mix, we should hit about 29 to 30 million in revenue. I would suspect that On that, we should add 1 to 2 more subsidiaries in there, and I think if those come to fruition, you could recognize 45 to 50 million in revenue.
And that's quite an increase. If you look at 2017, you guys were at 10 million in revenues that year, so that's quite an increase.
And a little side note to that, on 2017 we did about 10 million. 2018, even though our 10K is not out yet, we've done some announcements that we should be hovering right around 17 million for 2018. So there's a good projection of growth upwards.
Okay, anything else that you'd like to add that we didn't touch upon?
Alpine 4, I think, is a unique investment when you look at the spectrum of investments out there. We talked a little bit about the landscape of GE and Berkshire Hathaway and some of the myopic visions of maybe some marijuana stocks that are out there. And I would say this, that if you're into the day trading and you're in and out, that might be a viable option. But if you really want a company that is taking a longer term picture and building the infrastructure, I would say this. I mean, Amazon in 1988 was essentially a bookstore online.
That's correct.
And no one believed in his business model. In fact, he promised the market, I think, 20 times, Jeff Bezos. Don't quote me on that number, but it was a lot of number of times where he said we'll be profitable. And he finally did it, though. And the vision is being accomplished. I'm not saying that we are Amazon, but we have big aspirations for Alpine 4. And we believe that our business model of D.S.F will change the world. And we're just getting started.
Good. Well, Kent, how can our viewers find out more about Alpine 4?
Well, our website is a great place to do that. It's www.alpine4.com. And also, you can email investorrelations@alpine4.com.
Okay, well, Kent, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you being here with us today.
I'm glad to come on, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yes, come back again for sure. Well, if you are interested in being a guest on our show, please contact us at upticknewswire.com. Join us next time on Stock Day.
This program is entirely sponsored and produced by Uptick Newswire LLC, which is responsible for the content. The opinions and information provided on this program are those of the guests and those of the respective companies they represent, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Uptick Newswire. Uptick Newswire encourages all listeners of this program to do their due diligence and research when determining investment strategies that will work for them, or to seek the assistance of an investment professional. The guests of this program may have paid for its distribution and are not directly affiliated with Uptick Newswire or this station.